Hello and welcome to another edition of Issues with JIDE. Here we'll talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our political and national landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Today on the show, CBN gets desperate over Naira as IMF makes worrisome prediction. In the course of the program, we take your questions, but first, subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop your questions in the comment section. It's important to mention that we can only read comments with human names and the ones based on the subject matter. I have joining me via Zoom the maestro himself, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. Good to see you again this evening, BKO.
Good to see you, Ibrahim. It's good to do this with you again today.
That's right. So quickly before we talk about IMF and its palaver with Nigeria, let's start with the Central Bank of Nigeria, which has now become desperate over its drive to save the Naira from further degeneration with its series of sweeping reformational policies targeted at several entities, including its recent raid of the Bureau de Change operators' offices in some states by the EFCC, as well as its consideration to increase the share capital of BDC operators to 2 billion Naira and 500 million Naira for Tier 1 and tier 2 licenses. What's your assessment of the several policies initiated by the CBN so far? Do you think they are yielding desired results, even in the least? BKO, can you hear me?
Brian? Yes, I can hear you.
Did you get my question?
I can hear you. Yes. The CBN has every reason to be desperate at this point because when you look at the trend in the last few days, the Naira has been taking a bashing from all the major currencies, including the CFA francs, which is the currency used by our neighbors. And this has had a tremendous negative effect on on virtually everything. Ours is an economy dependent so much on imports, and because of this, our currency is weak and unable to hold its own against the major currencies of the world. Some activities have inexorably pushed our currency to its present state. For example, the hunger for the dollar, as I've always said, is an unusual one. It is difficult to believe that Nigerians love to use the dollar that much. What is happening is that a good number of people in privileged positions, people in government, have stolen so much money in Naira terms and have chosen to now convert what they have stolen to dollars. It is already well known that once governors receive their allocation every month, they set aside a big chunk of it and convert that to dollars. Governors have bureau de change operators that help them
BKO, can you hear me? right. We hope that BK will be able to reconnect soon. We are actually talking about the issue of the uh, International Monetary Fund, which is also presenting mixed feelings. But at first, we're looking at the CBN's different reforms, different policies that is introducing to address the problem of the Naira, where it invaded the FCC, which also invaded different offices in Abuja, Ibadan, and some other states in order to checkmate the activities of the Bureau de Change operators. Well, the EFCC also, the CBN also considering to increase the share capital of BDC operators to 2 billion naira and 500 million naira for tier 1 and tier 2 licenses. So BKO has been trying to help us assess the several policies initiated by the CBN so far. So BKO, are you there? I guess we've lost connectivity with BKO on issues with JIDE. Keep sending your comments, and hopefully we'll have him join us as soon as he can. It's very important to also note that your comment has to be based on what we're discussing and nothing different or differently from what we're discussing. That's what we'll be reading your comments on. Otherwise, you send comments, different from the topic we're discussing, and then we may not be able to take the comments. So it has to also come with the names so that we will be able to identify those who are sending comments. Already I'm seeing some comments coming in, but it's also very important to note that the CEO of National Derivative, Bismarck Rewani, criticized the CBN for the raid of BDC's offices in Nigeria, where he said that it doesn't happen in other countries, raiding markets and all. He said that let the market settle. When you have enough supply, intervene. So if the CBN wakes up today and says we are going to intervene with $500 million, all the Bureau de Change will run into the bush because nobody will patronize them. So, all of these questions have been going on about whether what CBN is doing, the reformation, the reform, the policy reforms that is introducing, maybe they are effective or not. Also, we understand that bank MDs are also holding the dollar about, talking about $1 trillion received from the CBN as they could sell to the people to make the rest of us suffer. So we are not sure whether that drastic measure or measures that the CBN is taking is something that, is really, really in place so as to tackle these issues. And also, Naira also returned to, returns to depreciation against US dollar despite EFCC's raid on BDCs, looking at the rate on February the 23rd, 2024. And all of these issues, mixed issues are happening, here and there. I think we are having BKO back. BKO, let me know if you can hear me now. BKO, can you hear me? Hello. Right, I'm already seeing some comments coming in. Nelson Adufe Samuel is already, we can see your comment. Rafiu Mustafa, okay, I can see your comment as well. Ubani Amos, thank you. BKO, you're back.
Yes.
Yeah, we lost you momentarily. Could you carry on from where?
Yes, I was saying that the activities of some economic saboteurs is one big reason our currency is this weak against the major currencies and the currencies of our neighbors. So we are in a situation in which the Naira simply cannot compete against other currencies. Nigerians who have stolen so much money, especially people in government, are looking for a more reliable store of value for what they have stolen. what the CBN is doing now is what we should have done many years ago. But like everything Nigerian, we typically allowed the economic saboteurs to have a field day. We were not bothered about reining them in. And we can all see what they've done to our country. I was talking about governors who have made a habit of converting a sizable portion of their security votes to dollars once they've received their own allocation from the distributable revenue from the center. So we have a situation in which there are some individuals who do not like spending the Naira. If they have visitors, if they have guests, they give their visitors the dollar as a parting gift. They believe that the Naira is useless. And you can see even Nigerians, the way they trample on the Naira at parties. They go to get new notes and spray new notes on revelers, and they step and even dance on our currency. You never see anyone dance on the dollar the way they dance on our currency. So when people are stomping on your currency, walking around on your currency, they forget that a country's currency is a symbol of pride. And Nigerians have treated our currency with so much disdain, with so much disrespect. And I can even say with some level of hatred, if that won't amount to some exaggeration. So now what the CBN is trying to do is to reduce the exposure of BDCs to physical cash in dollar terms. So if you receive some dollars from a friend based abroad, if you get posted into your Nigerian domiciliary account, you cannot withdraw cash. You cannot withdraw cash from the banks. The bank, you cannot withdraw dollars in cash from the banks. The banks will pay you in Naira. So they are doing their best to limit the activities of speculators, and a good number of unregistered bureau de change operators were arrested last week. No doubt these guys too play their part in putting us in the position that we found ourselves. Now, what the CBN is saying is that payment for all digital transfer purchases of foreign currency by BDC shall be by transfer to the customer's Naira account. If the customer is non-resident, whether Nigerian or not, a BDC may issue the customer a prepaid Nigerian card. They are not permitted to pay you in cash. It also says all digital and transfer purchases of foreign currency shall be credited to the BDC's Nigerian domiciliary account. So if you are sending money to a BDC from UK or from anywhere, it shall be credited to the domiciliary account of that BDC operator. Then, of course, sellers of foreign exchange in excess of $10,000 and above to BDCs must declare the source of the forex that they are selling to BDC operators. If you received $50,000 as proceeds of crime, before you can sell to a BDC operator, you should be ready to explain the source of the dollars that you are handing over to the BDC to sell to you. And then, of course, the federal government has also moved to block the online platforms of Binance, and other crypto firms to avert what it sees as manipulation of the forex market and to avert illicit movement of funds. In this age of terrorism, one of the easiest ways by which terrorists move funds around is not through the banks, is by cash, because when they move physical cash, it is difficult to trace, and therefore they ensure that it's difficult for the security agencies to arrest them. So the as far as the Nigerian authorities, as far as the CBN is concerned, these crypto firms like Octa FX, Crypto FXTM, Coinbase, Kraken, and others are actually guilty of manipulation of the foreign exchange market, and they are also liable to be used for illicit, also likely to be used to move funds to terrorists, just as it happens in many other crimes. So there is also the issue of, there's also the plan to raise liquidity, about to improve liquidity by raising the sum of $10 billion. The CBN believes that if it can raise the sum of 10 billion naira and it pushes this money to the foreign exchange market, it will help improve liquidity significantly and reduce rates. If we cannot reduce these rates at its present levels, definitely the IMF prediction that this year Naira will sell at above 2,000 Naira to a dollar. And we don't want to see that happening. The government has also been hampered by insufficient inflows of foreign exchange. Many Nigerians are aware that the last administration actually sold crude oil in advance to some of its clients. And what this means is that even if President Tinubu does his best to ensure that we meet our OPEC quota, to ensure that our oil output improves, we will still not be able to earn a dime, because whatever crude oil NNPC produce is already sold in advance. So it's already sold in advance, and the money received by NNPC. So we are not earning enough at this time, and we are hamstrung by way of selling crude oil. So it will take some time before we are able to make good money from selling our crude oil. Of course, we also have to deal with the problem of oil theft and declining investment in the oil sector. Some divestment that's also affecting output. So one other side, ensure that it pays back what we are owing the airlines, the banks, and others. What the forex from some deals that we did during the last administration, and some debts that were owed during the last administration owed to airlines. A quarter of the total debt owed airlines globally is from Nigeria. So the federal government is trying to pay back all of those debts so as to encourage foreign direct investment. Nobody will want to come to a country where he's not sure that he can repatriate his money. So these airlines like Emirates will be willing to come back to Nigeria and do business here if
Right.
we are able to pay them what we are owing them, and we
Yeah.
give firm guarantees that going forward we'll be able to ensure that they can repatriate their funds
Yeah.
seamlessly. So again, the big this is if you the effort to increase the what's it called, to increase the license fee for BDCs and peg it at 2 billion is meant to weed out a good number of BDCs that they suspect are actually being used to sabotage the system. BDCs being used to do a lot of round tripping and to do currency speculation and arbitrage, as it were. So for me, one big decision that the government can take is what Senator Ned Nwoko said. Senator Ned Nwoko advised Nigeria to ensure that the Naira is a single legal tender in our country. If foreigners are coming to our country for tourism, they should go get the Naira. For any transaction within the borders of Nigeria, it has to be in Naira. So that is what Senator Ned Nwoko is saying, because as far as it's concerned, our taste for the dollar is an unusual one. We are the world's biggest importer of the dollar. We have to do our best to strengthen our currency. Of course, the issue of production is there. We need to produce.
Right.
We are too dependent on imports.
Yeah,
We need to produce, and a country that does not produce should not expect to earn sufficient foreign exchange.
Yeah,
And
because of our time.
if you don't earn sufficient foreign exchange, your currency will be weak. That's why we are where we are. But the volatility that concerns our foreign currency,
Yeah.
the exchange rate in our currency has to be addressed. I do not know anywhere in the world where there is so much volatility in terms of the foreign exchange market as we see in Nigeria. Within 8 hours in one day,
Yeah.
you could have the Naira traded at different rates. This is unacceptable. We have to achieve some level of stability in the foreign exchange market to even encourage investors to come to our country to do business.
We're almost out of time. Let me quickly take this comment. So Ubani Amos says, if I were a political appointee, I'll make this program and journalist hangout my major source of information and ideas. BKO is a sure plug. Fabian Akaize says the urgent solution is for BAT to invest heavily in the anti-corruption agencies, reshuffle his cabinet, and must not contest for a second term. All right then. Nelson Adufe says, my question for BKO, can the CBN mop up all the dollars in circulation and make Naira more available in the Nigerian economy with likely few policies? I think he has spoken to that effect. Gabriel Kolawole says, why can't CBN allow at least $100 monthly on Naira MasterCard so that pressure on the dollar will reduce? But because of our time, BKO, I need us to talk about this IMF of an organization. You know, the International Monetary Fund has also presented a mixed outlook for Nigeria's inflation, warning of a potential surge to 44% in a worst-case scenario, while simultaneously projecting a more optimistic path towards 17% if decisive monetary policy tightening is implemented. So recall that this same organization recently stirred the honest nest in Nigeria when it encouraged the federal government to phase out electricity subsidy in the country. Very quickly, BKO, is IMF part of Nigerian problem?
IMF is not the problem of Nigeria. The problem of Nigeria is leadership. If someone gives you an advice, as a leader, you got to decide what advice to take. They are not putting a gun to the neck of our president and saying, you must do this, you must do that. No, it's up to our president to decide what he thinks is best for Nigeria and his people. I have had the president say that he will not remove electricity subsidy. Countries of the world give all kinds of subsidy. Thailand, for example, subsidizes the production of rice by its farmers. Yet they are one of the world's biggest rice producers, and they don't want the farmers to relax. They want the farmers to continue to produce. So they subsidize rice production in their country. Nothing is wrong in us having this electricity subsidy, at least for now. The economy is in dire straits. People's disposable incomes are shrinking rapidly. People are struggling to feed their families, to send their children to school. Removing that electricity subsidy will amount to heaping more burden on the Nigerian people. So you can look at IMF propositions and decide what to think is good for Nigeria. Whatever you are not convinced is good for Nigeria, you don't have to take that advice. Nobody is saying you must take it or you die. So this is the way I see things currently. The IMF warned us about the ways and means that the last administration continued to go for. At the last count, ways and means addressing to that the federal government shouldn't be owing the CBN the way it's doing. So sometimes, and the IMF also wants, it's a matter of big concern. So it's not all the time that they do not give good advice. Sometimes they give good advice. So when they give good advice, it makes sense to take the good advice. When they give an advice that amounts to breaking the neck of Nigerians, it's better to simply ignore them.
Okay, let me take one or two comments here. Okay, before we take this comment, the current benchmark interest rate stands at 18.5%, and analysts are projecting a 300 basis point hike by the CBN when the Monetary Policy Committee meets on February the 26th and 27th. Very quickly, Vicky, what are your expectations ahead of this committee meeting?
You see, we must do everything to encourage lending, because when the people can't take loans, it becomes difficult. People need to be able to take loans to build homes and help us reduce our housing deficit. People need to be able to take loans to boost their businesses, to give their businesses a good chance of surviving, or even starting up businesses altogether. But what we've seen is banks are more interested in giving loans to traders, those who are going to bring rice into the country and all that. We need to do something about that. The interest rate to lenders is too high. That cannot stimulate growth. So we want to see what the MPC will do when they meet this month. But they've got to take the best decision for our country. And people are already, economists are saying, look, they've got to do something about the interest rates, that it is not an enabler of business growth. And I agree. Something has to give in that regard. Ibrahim, are you there?
Yeah, BKO, can you hear me? Right.
Yes, I can hear you.
I was actually saying that there are some comments here, but then because of our time, we need to call it a wrap. But I would like to take this comment. Truman Thinkwell says, oh, okay, I think this is for me. He said, you look good since you got married. Congratulations, my brother. He also says, I've forgiven JIDE since he has returned to the side of the masses. I stopped watching this program when it was clear that he was supporting this government. JIDE, congrats for supporting the people. Quick reaction to that, as we call it a wrap.
There was no time. There was no time. You see, a lot of people will not watch the program, but they have an opinion all the same. There was no time that I used this program to support anybody. Whether an episode of this program, Tinubu is the best for the job, I will quit journalism. I've said that repeatedly. Those who say, oh, he was supporting Tinubu, he marketed Tinubu, how did I market the man? You can't find a video in which I marketed the man. All that you can say is that after the election, I insisted that he was the one who won the election. And it was clear that he won the election. So that is the quarrel of most people, that why did JIDE say Tinubu won the election? Of course, I was convinced that he won the election fairly, because APC, the ruling party, lost more than 10 states. When was the last time that sort of thing happened? That the ruling party will lose more than 10 states in a presidential election? But it happened. Well, at the end of the day, all things put together, that man won the election. That is the only thing you can hold against me, that I insist that he won the election. And even with a gun to my neck, I will still insist that he won the election. Because that's what happened. Look at Kaduna State. Despite El-Rufai being one of the big promoters of the Tinubu project, he lost Kaduna. In fact, APC won only 2 local governments in Kaduna, Gwari and Sanga. So that's to tell you that it was a tough election, but the man won. He won. So the thing that people hold against me is that I said that Tinubu won the election. Otherwise, there is nothing else that you can use against me to say he supported a particular candidate. No, I will never use this program to support a candidate. Right. No, I won't do that. And you won't find where I use this program to support a candidate. That's right. Or where I said the candidate was the best for the country. No, that's for the viewers. I mean, that's for the Nigerian people to decide. But once the election is over and you're asking for my opinion about how the election went, who won, who lost, oh, I'm going to express my opinion that Bola Ahmed Tinubu, no matter what you say about him, you may hate him, you may wish him dead, as one cleric wished the wife the other day. He won the election. That is my position. And I've never changed. That's right. I've never changed. I still remain a fighter for the downtrodden in our country. It's too late for me to change it. I will be a very shameless person if at my age I now turn against the people. No government is good enough to make me turn against the Nigerian people. No president is good enough to make me turn against the Nigerian people. I insist. And people will see it in the course of time. It's not it doesn't matter who is there, whether it's Tinubu that is there or whoever. No president is good enough to make me turn against the Nigerian people. It's not going to happen.
Right. Francis Bame says, God bless you, Babajide. And on that, that's our show for today's edition of Issues with JIDE. Special thanks to you, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju, for those insightful analyses, as always.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Thank you to those who have decided to start liking me again. I appreciate.
That's
After
really
all the elections are over.
absolutely, absolutely. Governance is not what we do now, and analyze what the
Yes.
government is doing. Right, and thanks to you too, our audience, for keeping our company on every edition. You can see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TVC News Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. You can also follow us on our social media platforms at TVC News NG. I'm also at Ibrahim, TVC News. On behalf of the rest of the team, I'm Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye for now.